Hi there folks, welcome to the weekly Forex forecast. It's Monday the 6th of December, soon be Christmas. Okay, in order to get this weekly forecast, just head over to the forexsignals.com website. Scroll right down to the bottom and you'll see here Forex forecast. We've got a lovely support man just popping up there as well. Okay, so here we are, weekly forecast. If you want to get this sent directly to your inbox, just fill in your details there on those fields. That way, the moment we release this forecast, it'll be sent straight to your inbox. Let's have a quick look what it's all about today. Okay, so this week I'm looking at a short trade in the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. Now, we had some big moves last week in the Canadian dollar, much because of the price of oil surging higher after OPEC decided to keep their projections for supply unchanged. Also had some really good job numbers out of Canada, as we did in the US as well. New Zealand dollar is coming under pressure because of commodity prices, because they were the first ones to move their rates, so they've moved their rates already. Maybe the markets are going to expect them to hold back a little bit with the next move until they see a bit more stability after their latest variant has showed its hand properly. So we're looking at the New Zealand CAD trade with a level of 86.60. We've already broken through this key level of support. And often when you see levels of support breached like that, they can be good resistant levels on the way up. So if you are short in the New Zealand CAD, the recent level of supply and demand, support and resistance should be respected if indeed this does want to have a little bit of a bounce. I'm also looking at the euro against the US dollar. Now, some of you may have seen the non-farm payroll numbers last week. Really strong numbers. Participation rates are up. The job numbers are falling as well. So it's all good news for the US dollar. Interest rates are on the way up there. Certainly asset purchasing has been accelerated, that wind down. So all good news for the US dollar. On the other side of that, European Central Bank, polar opposites. They're basically saying they're not moving rates anytime soon. So you've got one central bank pushing up rates, one central bank saying rates are going to stay unchanged. This currency pair has been in a downtrend for a period of time. Pulling back at the moment, 50% pullback, trend continuation. I'm going to show you that on a real chart in just a moment. Okay, and Max is looking at a bullish trade in gold as well. He's looking at a closing in on the 1790 level. 1792 I think is the level that he has picked, certainly as the path of least resistance, uptrending at the moment. Bit of a pullback coming into some support there as well. So Max is looking at the price of gold. Max is also now getting bearish on the stocks. Bit of risk off coming into the markets. I'm not sure which way they're going to go, but Max is certainly positioning himself for maybe a correction to the downside. Certainly with the coronavirus new variant kicking in, markets do seem to be a little bit cautious of taking on excessive risk at the moment. I did notice Bitcoin had a bit of a drop on the weekend, 20% down on the weekend. I piled into Bitcoin on Friday. That wasn't a great call, was it? But I'm in for the long haul. Right, now let's jump onto the screens and see exactly what I'm talking about. Come on. Okay, so let's have a quick look here at the momentum meter. For those that have been following me for a while, know that this is my holy grail, if there's such a thing. There is no holy grail, unfortunately. It doesn't predict the future, but it does tell me exactly where the money is flowing at the moment. Now, you saw we had some good numbers out of Canada last week. Some good employment numbers. Also, we're seeing a push higher in the oil price. And that's reflecting now in the currency markets as well. You see this purple line here. This purple line is the Canadian dollar, affectionately known as the loonie. It's pushing higher. It is the strongest currency on the basket of 8 at the moment. And as trend followers, I always like to buy the strong currencies. The currencies that are pushing up in an upwardly direction. 45-degree angle is really healthy. Currencies that are getting stronger are pushing up. Currencies that are getting weaker push lower. So basically the Canadian dollar is on my radar this week for a currency that maybe we want to be taking to the long side. Interestingly enough, here you see the safe haven currencies. This is the Japanese yen. That's the brown line, and the red line. That's the Swiss franc. These are the low yielding safe haven currencies, and these are coming under pressure over the last few trading sessions. They are currencies that are being sold. Remember, if you're trading trend, you want to buy the strong currencies and you want to sell the ones that are being sold. So maybe you might want to be looking at a CAD yen trade to the upside, or potentially a CAD Swiss trade to the upside as well. Look here, the green, that is the greenback, the dollar. Dollar has been in an upward momentum for a period of time now, and the blue line here, that is the euro. One of the reasons why I'm liking the continuation of that trend by buying the US dollar and selling the euro is because they've basically been trading that side for a while now. Again, both of them are pulling back a little bit this morning, but they both still are holding their position relative to each other. We'll look at the euro dollar in a moment, seeing the price action there. Also looking here at the British pound. British pound has got some bid momentum behind it. Last week you saw the MPC members basically becoming a little bit more dovish, talking about the Delta variant, or the coronavirus variant, I should say, basically maybe making them pull back a little bit on their rate hiking projections. The pound came under pressure, but now that seems to have been fading, and of course the variant now maybe seems less potent than it was firstly thought, and the pound is pushing up on the back of that, basically reversing last week's price action. So my eyes this week are also on the pound pushing higher. Again, buying pound, you want to be selling weaker currencies against it. Keep an eye on the Australian dollar this week. Australian dollar has got the all-important RBA meeting. That's basically when they decide on interest rates. Last few times out, the RBA, the Reserve Bank of Australia, they've been quite dovish, basically saying we're not moving interest rates for a period of time, not until 2024. Markets were basically not believing them, so I'm getting a little bit bid. I'm believing that the RBA, the Reserve Bank of Australia, may be a bit more dovish than the market is giving them credit for at the moment. So the Australian dollar could come under pressure this week into that meeting. Okay, so let's have a quick look here at the euro against the US dollar. Now you'll see here on the daily chart that this level here, this support zone that was holding around the 1550 level, that was finally breached about the beginning of the month. We had this push lower to create yearly lows. Then we had this pullback, and this pullback that we're seeing is about 50% of that move. Now, I always like to enter trades on 50% pullbacks. It's one of the criteria that I always look at. And you'll see here at this 50% pullback zone, we hit through with this candle up here, and all the subsequent candles have failed to take out the previous day's high. This is indicating that the euro strength is waning. So every pullback you see in the euro, it fails to take out the previous day, indicating that this trend could be set to resume its downward path, and maybe we're going to see a retest of those yearly lows back down there at around the 1185 zone. So keeping an eye on that. The daily price action, certainly for this currency pair, is wanting to take this lower. Also bear in mind, we've got two polar opposites of the central bankers here. You've got Lagarde, who's the president of the ECB. She's basically saying they're not moving interest rates, not even on their radar to move interest rates higher next year, 2023. Whereas the Fed, they've already beginning to tighten up on their asset purchasing. And indeed, the markets are now pricing in first rate hikes for March of next year. So basically two polar opposites of central banks in terms of their economic policy, which can only, I think, push this currency in one direction, and that's going to be lower. Okay, so let's have a quick look then at the economic calendar for the week ahead. Head over to forexsignals.com. You scroll right down to the bottom and you'll see all our free tools and so forth. Click on Forex Economic Calendar. It brings up this calendar telling you basically what we have coming out for the week ahead. Now, even if you don't trade the news, I do think it's really important that you have one of these to hand to keep you out of trouble, if nothing else. Anything that's deemed to be red here on the left or right hand side is deemed to be high impact news. Anything that's deemed to be low impact news is normally coloured green. Here are the previous reads, and then you've got the estimates. Now, if the actual read when it comes out is vastly different to the estimate, normally the market moves in a particular direction depending on whether it was more positive or more bearish. I always like to take this out to the next 7 days. Normally like to do this on a Monday. Just have a little scroll through. We've got some rate decisions out of Bank of Canada, so keep an eye on that. If you're trading the loonie this week, you need to be aware of the Bank of Canada rate decision. We've also got the RBA, the Reserve Bank of Australia, their rate decision as well, so that's going to be all important. What else we got this week? We've got I'm just looking for anything red here. We've got some industrial production numbers out of the UK on the 10th. They're normally quite important industrial production numbers, certainly in light of where we have the Bank of England at the moment poised between should they hike rates or should they not. Industrial production can be a good leading indicator on that front. We've got, of course, US Consumer Price Index. That's basically inflation. That's going to be out on the 10th. Really important. It basically tells us what the prices are doing. And as you know, the Fed, central banks, they are mandated to control inflation. You wouldn't know it at the time. Look at inflation at the moment, month on month, up 0.7. Consumer Price Index, 6.8% is what they're going for. 6.8%. Remember, they're mandated to control inflation at 2%. Fed Powell last week said that word transitory is now going to be retired. It's now not going to be temporary. But boy, oh boy, almost 7% inflation out there. Are the Fed going to have to move sooner rather than later? So keep an eye on that one as well. If it comes in much higher than that, then I'd expect to see the dollar push higher as well. And that's basically it for the week. So a bit of a quiet week, a couple of central bank rate decisions, a bit of data out of the UK, but more importantly, the CPI later on in the week out of the US. Okay, so I hope you found that useful. Don't forget, if you want to get this report sent directly to your inbox, just fill in your details there. And that way it will be sent to you the moment it has been released. So lots to play for this week. Now we are streaming live around the clock, up to 7 times a day. We've got a new member of the team in the US as well. So we're now covering the full 24-hour period. If you want to take part in that, you can do so. Just head over to forexsignals.com. I think you can take out a 7-day free trial as well. If you don't like, you don't want to stay, then of course you don't have to. Everything to gain, and I say nothing to lose. Don't forget, follow us on all the socials if you don't already do so. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if, again, you don't already do so. If that is not your thing, you don't want to join us in the daily live streams, that is not a problem. I'll see you next week. Have a good week.